When you look at today's workplaces, especially in tech, things move so fast. It's intense.
Absolutely. The pressure is immense.
And companies, they're brilliant at solving these incredibly complex tech problems, right? But it's fascinating. They often seem to stumble on something really fundamental, the mental health, the well-being of their own people.
It's a real paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
Millions spent on wellness, but sometimes the needle doesn't really move much on how people actually feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why today we're diving into something that might be part of the answer: employee resource groups. ERGs. We're looking at how they're emerging as this really powerful, maybe overlooked support system. So our focus today is understanding how these ERGs, because they are closer to what employees experience day to day, how they can really step up. We're drawing on an article from the Ingomu coaching app blog. It's called Support the Whole Employee with Mental Health Strategies for ERGs.
A really insightful piece.
Our mission here is basically to unpack how ERGs can create these targeted, genuinely safe spaces, places where talking about mental health isn't taboo, where support actually lands, and where employees feel, seen and supported as whole people, not just workers.
Yeah, not just cogs in the machine.
Okay, so we've all seen those corporate wellness programs. Good intentions, absolutely, but sometimes they just feel a bit impersonal.
Generic, maybe. Or hard to even figure out how to use them.
Right. They sometimes miss the mark. So if that's happening, why are ERGs different? What makes them potentially better at bridging this gap? What's their, secret sauce?
Well, I think what's really compelling is how ERGs get past those generic one-size-fits-all solutions. They actually meet people where they are.
Okay.
Because, let's face it, mental health struggles don't just vanish when you clock out, or even if you're working remotely. And in these high-pressure fields like tech, with the long hours, stress, burnout, anxiety, they can spiral really quickly. Now, HR provides the essential resources, no question. But ERGs add this other layer, this element of trust, maybe, and real cultural understanding.
Oh, okay. Trust.
Yeah, they kind of bridge the gap between the official company benefits and how people actually use them in their lives. And sometimes they bring in specific tools, like, say, a coaching platform. Ingomu is an example that gives ongoing access to expert help for stress, resilience, well-being overall. It helps build a stronger support system.
So it's more tailored, more accessible.
Exactly. And there are specific reasons why they're so powerful here. First, like I said, cultural relevance.
Right.
They can design things based on members' actual lived experiences, not just broad strokes, but the specifics. Like, how do you navigate microaggressions day in, day out? How do you balance intense work with caregiving? Or just that heavy feeling of being, the only one, like in a meeting or on a team.
That specificity must make a huge difference.
It really does. Then there's peer validation. Just hearing someone else in your ERG, someone with similar experiences, say, yeah, I've been there too, or here's how I dealt with that. That can be incredibly comforting. Much more so sometimes than a formal message from HR, however well-meaning.
That sense of shared understanding.
Precisely. And finally, and this is crucial, they create safe conversation spaces. People often feel way more comfortable opening up about mental health challenges with peers in their ERG than in, say, a big company-wide town hall. There's less fear of judgment.
That makes total sense. That peer element builds safety. But you mentioned tech earlier. It really does seem like its own kind of pressure cooker for mental health, doesn't it? The data points to higher burnout, higher anxiety.
It absolutely does.
So this is where it gets really interesting. What are the things driving that? What are those specific factors in tech?
Oh, there are several key things, unfortunately. You've got the classic always-on culture. Work bleeds into life because of constant emails, Slack messages. The boundaries just get completely blurred.
Yeah, the digital leash.
Exactly. Then there's this intense pressure for perfectionism. Super high standards, incredibly fast product cycles. It feels like a constant sprint with no finish line. That creates chronic stress. And with more remote work, especially for distributed teams, you get isolation. That lack of casual social connection you get in our office, it can lead to real loneliness and feeling disconnected.
I've heard that a lot lately.
And then, for underrepresented folks in tech, there's often this extra layer, this additional mental load.
How so?
Well, navigating biases, maybe feeling the weight of representation gaps, sometimes doing advocacy work on top of their actual job. It all adds up. It's exhausting.
Wow, okay.
So with all that going on, mental health and well-being can't just be some side initiative or an afterthought. It has to be baked into the company's core support structure. It's absolutely foundational.
It really sounds like ERGs aren't trying to replace the official programs, but more like amplifying them and making them work better on the ground.
That's a great way to put it. Enhance and localize. They act as amplifiers, making sure support actually reaches people effectively.
So let's get practical. What are some concrete things, some actual strategies ERGs can use to make a real difference beyond just talking about it?
Okay, yeah, let's break down 5 key strategies. First, and maybe most importantly, normalize conversations about mental health.
Ow.
By hosting things like open forums or maybe panel discussions where people, even senior leaders, share their own experiences. Imagine, say, a Women in Tech ERG having a session called Breaking the Silence, where senior engineers talk openly about dealing with imposter syndrome or their struggles with work-life balance.
Making it okay to not be okay.
Exactly. Second, provide practical stress relief tools, things people can use right away, short, accessible sessions.
Like what?
Maybe a mental health and wellness ERG runs a quick 15-minute Mindful Monday guided meditation over Zoom each week, something easy to join, low commitment, but genuinely helpful.
Nice. Bite-sized support.
Third, create peer support networks. Small, confidential groups where members can check in with each other. For instance, a Veterans in Tech ERG could host biweekly calls just focused on challenges like transitioning to civilian work culture, managing that specific type of stress. That shared experience is key.
Building those small, trusted circles.
Yep. Fourth strategy, highlight and simplify access to existing company resources. So many great benefits go unused because people don't know about them or find the process too confusing.
Right. Navigating the ENT or insurance can be daunting.
Totally. So an LGBTQ plus ERG might hold a workshop literally walking members through how to find an inclusive therapist using the company's EAP, cutting through all the jargon, just making it easy.
Demystifying the benefits.
And finally, number 5,
Yeah.
advocate for policy changes that actually protect well-being. ERGs have a collective voice. They can push for systemic improvement.
Like what sort of policies?
Things like more flexible scheduling, maybe advocating for meeting-free blocks of time. A Disability Alliance ERG, for example, could push for reduced core meeting hours to better support neurodivergent employees, helping their focus and reducing cognitive load. It's about changing the environment, not just coping with it.
Those are really tangible actions. But, the risk with any initiative, especially mental health, is that it becomes a sort of flavor of the month. How can ERGs make this a sustained effort, something woven into their fabric year-round, without just adding more meetings and stress? So what does this actually look like on the ERG calendar?
That's such an important point. It has to be about thoughtful integration, not just piling more on. You don't want the support system to become another source of stress.
Right.
So instead of just one-off events, you weave it into the regular rhythm. A good model could be something like maybe quarterly deep dive workshops on bigger topics, resilience, burnout prevention, navigating change.
Okay, more in-depth sessions.
Yeah. Then maybe monthly light touch sessions, quick things like yoga, a mindfulness practice, maybe a gratitude circle, easy to access, restorative.
Keeps it front of mind.
Exactly. And crucially, ongoing peer check-ins. Those small groups or mentorship pairings we mentioned, maybe with a specific focus on well-being check-ins. Plus, maybe an annual survey just to check in with members. What do you need? What's working? What isn't? This keeps it relevant and sustainable.
That sounds like a balanced approach. How do you measure if it's actually working, though? Especially with something like mental health. Attendance numbers don't tell the whole story.
Absolutely not. You have to look at qualitative impact. How are people actually feeling? ERGs can track this through things like anonymous feedback surveys, asking directly, do you feel more supported, less stressed?
Okay.
You can also look for increases in awareness or, importantly, use of the official company mental health benefits. Are more people accessing the EAP after the ERG highlighted it?
That's a good indicator.
And sometimes the most powerful measure is the stories, personal breakthroughs people share, with their permission, of course. But the absolute key, and I'll repeat it, is avoiding overload. The goal is support, not more homework.
Offer, don't obligate. Got it. That balance is critical. To make this really concrete for everyone listening, could you share maybe a real-world example, a case study of an ERG that really nailed this?
Sure. There's a great example of a Black professionals ERG at a large tech company. Members started sharing how incredibly taxing it was dealing with the constant, often traumatic news cycle around racial injustice, on top of the usual high-pressure project demands.
Yeah.
It was this dual burden weighing heavily on them.
Understandably exhausting.
Absolutely. So the ERG didn't just talk about it, they acted. They launched a monthly resilience circle, a dedicated safe space just for discussing these specific challenges and sharing coping strategies relevant to their experiences.
Tailored support again.
Exactly. They also brought in a trauma-informed therapist for quarterly workshops, offering expert guidance that understood the cultural context. And, significantly, they worked with HR. They successfully advocated for a floating mental health day policy, which acknowledged that sometimes people just need a day proactively.
That's a big policy win.
Huge.
Yeah.
And they also created a digital resource hub, pulling together culturally relevant mental health resources, articles, contacts, tools, making support easily accessible.
So what was the outcome?
It was really positive. Within about a year, members reported feeling much more connected to each other, more understood by the company, and importantly, more empowered to actually set boundaries to protect their own well-being. They also partnered with Ingomu, the coaching platform, to offer ongoing group coaching and self-paced learning, making the support sustainable long-term.
That's a fantastic example of targeted, sustained action with real impact. Wow. Okay, so if we zoom out from that specific ERG and think about the whole company, when ERGs really lean into supporting mental health like this, what's the broader effect? What's the ripple effect across the organization?
Oh, the ripple effect is huge. It goes way beyond the ERG members. First off, you see better retention. It's simple. Employees who feel genuinely cared for, seen, and supported are just much more likely to stay. That saves the company huge amounts in turnover costs.
Makes sense. Happy people stay.
And you see higher engagement.
Yeah.
When people's well-being is supported, they have more capacity for focus, for creativity, for problem solving. You can't be innovative if you're running on empty.
True. Burnout kills creativity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it builds a much more inclusive culture. A workplace that openly acknowledges and supports mental health in all its diversity is a place where all talent feels they can actually thrive, bring their authentic selves to work, and do their best work.
So it benefits everyone, really.
Absolutely. In industries like tech, where it's often all about speed and output, ERGs focusing on mental health serve as this vital reminder. Your people are your most valuable asset. Not just the products they create. It's about building a workplace that's sustainable because it's human-centered.
That's such a critical point. Now, for anyone listening who's thinking, my company doesn't have ERGs or we have them, but they don't focus on mental health and they're feeling inspired, how does someone even start? If you want to be that catalyst, what's the basic blueprint for getting an ERG off the ground?
It's definitely doable. It often starts small with just a couple of passionate people. The first step is really to identify the purpose. What's the community or shared interest? Parents, veterans, women in leadership, mental health allies. Get specific.
Okay, define the why.
Exactly. Then gauge interest, talk to colleagues informally, send out a quick anonymous poll maybe, see who else cares about this. You need that grassroots support.
Build momentum.
Right. Next, and this is key, secure leadership buy-in. You'll likely need to talk to HR or maybe a senior leader who could be a sponsor. Frame it around the benefits, engagement, retention culture. Make the business case.
Got it. Show the value.
Then, set clear goals. What does this ERG want to achieve in its first year? Networking, skill building, launching one specific mental health initiative, keep it focused initially. After that, create a launch plan. How will you communicate? What will the first meeting look like? Map out a basic calendar.
First steps.
And finally, my best advice is start small and grow. Don't try to boil the ocean. Maybe launch with one simple event or resource, build success, gain momentum, and then expand organically based on what members need and want.
That sounds like a really practical roadmap. Thank you. This whole deep dive, it really brings home that supporting the whole employee, including their mental health, isn't just some optional nice to have. It's absolutely fundamental for building workplaces that are sustainable and, well, human. And for ERGs, taking on this mantle, weaving mental health into what they do, it's more than just caring. It feels like an act of real leadership, shaping a better future for work.
I completely agree. By fostering these open conversations, offering genuinely useful tools, and pushing for those necessary systemic changes, ERGs really can help people move beyond just surviving the demands of modern work. They can help people truly thrive. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Consider what role you could play, big or small, in nurturing that kind of supportive environment right where you are.